Well, it could be for. I know, Stephen, you did some stuff for some like multinationals and their currency hedging. What does that look like? Because some of the strategies that can really make money, like the institutional grade strategies, they follow the money and the movements from multinational big, large companies and stuff like that. So I think that's also where you get those big daily spikes in the market, is when big companies are starting to like put in their orders to start their own hedging. What does that look like?
Exactly. And that's why we had large companies, with working with big banks or other FX providers with their own internal teams of treasury people reaching out to us. So I think there's a good segue here from what Andrew was talking about, and picking up on the themes of being a contrarian, and kind of this algorithmic trading. We implement a discretionary strategy, a discretionary approach, and even in a case where you're dealing in a situation where you have a multinational semiconductor company with customers and suppliers all over the world and dealing in high volume transactions, at the end of the day, people still want a human to analyze everything. It's like everything we just talked about, there's all this chaos happening. And I saw a lot of it in the ad tech space as well, disrupting the mortgage space, the retail trading space. There's just a lot of chaos happening. And at the end of the day, you still need a human to kind of review everything and process it and strategize. So I think in that context of working with multinationals and sophisticated industries like apparel and semiconductors, and they've got all this information, they still want a human. So I'll give you a very simple example. They got a lot of information, a lot of quote free information from their banks on FX, a lot of forecasts, a lot of analysis, but at the end of the day, they wanted us to review everything because they didn't trust the upsell from the bank. So even if they got a generic monthly recap of a certain currency pair, they wanted an independent human to review it because they were suspicious of the bank trying to stoke fear and upsell. So
And interesting you say that, because that's one of the things that creates the consensus view, which is the thing that drives price. Like if you have enough banks saying that the euro is set to rise because there is inflation in Southern Europe, like the more people that say that, the more likely that is the outcome.
Exactly.
So it's really interesting.
Our research director Kevin Solid, he's quite brilliant in this regard. And again, a twist on the contrarian theme. We do major currencies, but we also look in non-traditional crosses like GBP, AUD, New Zealand yen, Euro, Canadian. And then I'll just cap it off with this idea that AI is like Skynet on in movies like The Terminator. The current technology, as far as I understand, you still need a human to place data, images, whatever the AI is processing into initial piles under certain categories. So there's still a vital role for human discretion. Anyway.
But also, and again, I think that's one of the reasons that makes the market, this kind of idea of efficient markets, is that there are sufficient participants. You have a guy who sits in a small room with 7 other developers building out AI strategies, but you also have a guy who sits at a desk looking at a chart going, well, this is the top of a 4-hour candle, and it's reasonable to assume that statistically it's likely to fall. And so if you have enough people participating in different time frames on with different strategies, computers, not computers, AI, algos, fundamental, technical, hybrid, that creates organized price. And so that's one of the things that makes trading so difficult and yet so profoundly interesting. Yeah,
well, I think that's like one of the quickest growing fields is data analysts. There's always ads for data analysts in all sorts of fields now. Data is the new commodity.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. Things you don't understand, right, are the things that you kind of you find a guy who knows a little bit more about it than you, and you bolt onto his objective. And if he's been slightly successful at it, especially in the new world where nobody wants to actually go to a job, they want to find their own way to their own paradigm of success, and it's generally to disrupt something, So yeah, it's an interesting time for humanity in general.
Yeah, definitely an interesting time for humanity. But hopefully we'll be able to leave our houses soon. So
yeah.